On May 30, 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump reiterated his claim that his administration played a pivotal role in brokering a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, emphasizing that he used the prospect of trade as leverage to de-escalate the conflict. This statement aligns with multiple remarks he made throughout May 2025, following a period of intense military confrontation between the two nuclear-armed nations. Below is a detailed overview of the context, claims, responses, and implications based on available information. Background of the India-Pakistan conflict. April-May 2025. The conflict in question was sparked by a terrorist attack on April 22, 2025, in Indian-administered Kashmir, where 26 people, mostly Hindu tourists, were killed by a militant group called the Resistance Front. India attributed the attack to Pakistan-backed insurgents, a claim Pakistan denied. In response, India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7, 2025, conducting missile strikes on alleged terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Pakistan retaliated with drone and missile attacks, leading to 4 days of intense cross-border strikes, the most severe conflict between the two nations in decades. Both sides reported significant military actions, with India claiming to have destroyed terrorist camps and Pakistan asserting it downed Indian fighter jets. The escalation raised global concerns about the potential for nuclear conflict, given that both nations possess nuclear arsenals, Pakistan with approximately 170 warheads. The situation was particularly tense after Indian strikes hit near Pakistan's Nur Khan airbase, close to its nuclear command infrastructure, prompting fears of miscalculation. Trump's claims and role in the ceasefire. On May 10, 2025, President Trump announced via Truth Social that India and Pakistan had agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire, following U.S.-mediated talks. He described the agreement as a historic and heroic decision that prevented a potential nuclear disaster. Trump repeatedly claimed throughout May 2025 that his administration's intervention, particularly through trade incentives and threats, was instrumental in halting the conflict. Key points of his claims include: trade as leverage. Trump stated that he told Indian and Pakistani leaders that the U.S. would increase trade if they ceased hostilities but would halt trade if they continued fighting. On May 12, 2025, he said at the White House, "I said, to the Indian and Pakistani leadership, let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade." He reiterated this on May 30, 2025, stating that his administration cannot trade with people who are shooting at each other. Preventing nuclear conflict. Trump claimed that his intervention averted a bad nuclear war that could have killed millions, emphasizing the high stakes of the conflict. Ongoing trade negotiations. He suggested that the U.S. was negotiating trade deals with both nations post-ceasefire, framing the resolution as a step toward economic cooperation. Trump's remarks were echoed by U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who confirmed engaging with Indian and Pakistani leaders, such as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, and Pakistan's Army Chief Gen. Asim Munir. Rubio's diplomatic efforts were credited with facilitating the ceasefire, particularly after intense negotiations on May 9 to 10, 2025. India's response and denial of trade claimed the Indian government, while acknowledging the ceasefire, firmly disputed Trump's narrative regarding trade incentives and U.S. mediation, no trade discussions. On May 13, 2025, India's Foreign Ministry spokesman, Randhir Jaiswal, stated that trade was not discussed during conversations between Indian and U.S. leaders. These talks, involving Vice President J.D. Vance, Rubio, and Indian officials like Modi and Jaishankar, focused solely on the military situation. Bilateral resolution. India maintained that the ceasefire was a bilateral agreement reached through direct communication between the Directors General of Military Operations, DGMOs, of India and Pakistan, not through U.S. mediation. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri emphasized that the agreement, effective from 5 p.m. IST on May 10, 2025, was for both sides to stop all firing and military actions. Rejection of Kashmir mediation. Trump's offer to mediate on the Kashmir dispute was explicitly rejected by India, which considers Kashmir a bilateral issue with no room for third-party involvement. India reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are integral parts of its territory. Trade. As Indian analysts and opposition leaders criticized the government's handling of the situation, arguing that the sudden ceasefire and Trump's claims undermined India's strategic objectives and drew unwanted international attention to the Kashmir issue. Prime Minister Narendra Modi faced domestic scrutiny for appearing to yield to U.S. pressure, with critics like Swapan Dasgupta noting that Trump's pronouncements caught Indian officials off guard. Pakistan's perspective. Pakistan, in contrast, welcomed Trump's involvement and expressed gratitude for U.S. facilitation. Pakistani officials, including Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, confirmed Rubio's role in urging de-escalation due to the nuclear risks. A senior Pakistani intelligence official credited Trump's direct intervention with sealing the ceasefire agreement, expressing hope that it would hold. Pakistan also highlighted the Indus Waters Treaty, suspended by India during the conflict, as a key issue for future negotiations, suggesting that U.S. guarantees of broader dialogue influenced their agreement to the ceasefire. Ceasefire violations and fragility. Despite the announced ceasefire on May 10, 2025, both sides reported violations within hours. Residents in Indian-administered Kashmir, particularly in Jammu and Srinagar, heard blasts, and both nations accused each other of breaching the truce. The Indian military, led by Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, sent a hotline message to Pakistan on May 11, warning of strong retaliation for any further violations. Pakistan's military denied violating the ceasefire, and by May 12, the truce appeared to stabilize, though underlying tensions, particularly over Kashmir, remained unresolved. Global reactions and broader implications. Global leaders welcomed the ceasefire, with countries like China, Saudi Arabia, and Iran also advocating for de-escalation due to the nuclear risks. However, analysts noted that the ceasefire did not address the root causes of the India-Pakistan conflict, particularly the Kashmir dispute, which continues to fuel tensions. The U.S.'s role, while significant, was seen as opportunistic by some, with Trump leveraging the quick resolution to project diplomatic success, similar to his ambitions in other conflicts like Ukraine. The ceasefire highlighted the delicate balance of India's rising global influence and its domestic political sensitivities. Modi's government faced criticism for potentially allowing U.S. intervention to overshadow India's autonomy in handling the conflict, while Pakistan saw the ceasefire as a chance to claim a tactical victory against a stronger neighbor. Critical analysis. Trump's repeated claims, including on May 30, 2025, appear to exaggerate the U.S.'s role in the ceasefire, particularly the emphasis on trade incentives, which India categorically denied. The timing of his statements, often made in high-profile settings like the White House or during international trips, e.g., Qatar on May 15 and Saudi Arabia on May 13, suggests an intent to bolster his administration's foreign policy credentials. However, the involvement of Rubio and Vance indicates that U.S. diplomacy, driven by nuclear escalation fears, played a significant role, even if not as decisive as Trump claimed. India's rejection of U.S. mediation reflects its long-standing policy of bilateralism with Pakistan, especially on Kashmir, and a desire to maintain strategic autonomy as a rising global power. The ceasefire's fragility, evidenced by immediate violations, underscores the ongoing challenge of achieving lasting peace in a region marked by deep-seated mistrust and competing national narratives. Conclusion. President Trump's claim on May 30, 2025, that he stopped India and Pakistan from fighting by leveraging trade reflects a narrative he consistently pushed since the ceasefire was announced on May 10. While U.S. diplomatic efforts, particularly through Rubio, contributed to de-escalation, India disputes the trade angle and insists the ceasefire was a bilateral agreement. The episode highlights the complex interplay of domestic politics, international diplomacy, and nuclear risks in South Asia, with Kashmir remaining a flashpoint for future tensions.